Nikolai Vavilov was a Russian scientist who dedicated his entire life to ending world hunger. He spent decades traveling the globe collecting seeds from every corner of the earth. Tens of thousands of species, all stored in a seed bank in Leningrad. His vision was simple. If humanity ever faced a catastrophic famine, those seeds could be used to regrow food supplies and save millions of lives. It was a just cause, a vision of a future that many never fully arrived, but one worth dedicating everything to. Now, in 1941, the Nazis laid siege to Leningrad. For 900 days, the city was cut off. People were starving, dying in the streets. And in the nondescript building in the center of the city sat Vavilov's team, a small group of scientists surrounded by tons of seeds and potatoes, edible, life-saving, and they didn't eat a single one. 9 of those scientists died of starvation, surrounded by food, because they believed in something bigger than themselves. One of them, a scientist named Vadim Leknovich, later said this: "It was not in the least difficult to refrain from eating up that collection, for it was impossible to think of eating it up. For what was involved was the cause of your life, the cause of your comrades' lives." Let me say that again. They didn't think of it as sacrifice. They thought of it as purpose. Now, I'm not telling you this story to make you feel guilty for not willing to starve for your work. That's not the point. The point is this: when you are truly connected to a just cause, when you are driven by something bigger than your own comfort, your own numbers, your own paycheck, you become capable of things you never thought possible. You become resilient. You become steady. You become someone who doesn't fall apart when the months get hard or the rejection pile gets high, because you're not doing it for the money. You're not doing it for the leaderboard. You're doing it because the work matters. Think about the implications of this. Those scientists could have eaten the seeds. No one would have known. No one would have blamed them, but they didn't, because the cause was bigger than their hunger. The vision of a world without famine, a world they would never live to see, mattered more than their immediate survival. That's not rational in short-term sense, but it's exactly the kind of thinking that creates lasting impact. It's infinite thinking at its purest form. So, what is a just cause? Sinek breaks it down into 5 criteria. A just cause must be for something, affirmative, not against something else. Must be inclusive, open to anyone who wants to contribute. Service-oriented, for the benefit of others, not just yourself. Resilient, able to withstand change over time. And idealistic, ultimately unreachable, something you can work towards forever. The last one is key. A just cause is not a goal. It's not a number you hit and then celebrate. It's a direction, a North Star, something you move towards, knowing you'll never fully arrive. Now, here's the application for sales. Most salespeople don't have a just cause. They have a quota. They have targets. They have managers breathing down their necks asking why they didn't close the deal. And so their entire world becomes finite. Hit the number, win the contest, make the bonus. But here's what happens when you operate that way. The work never feels meaningful. The rejection feels personal, and every slow week feels like failure because there's nothing underneath it. There's no foundation holding you up when things get hard. I'll never forget a conversation I had with a fundraiser I was coaching a few years back. She was struggling, not with her pitch, not with her technique. She just couldn't find the motivation. Every day, she just couldn't find the motivation. Every day felt like a grind. She'd go out on the doors, talk to a few people, get rejected, and come back defeated. So I asked her a question. I asked everyone, "Why are you here?" She looked at me like I was crazy. For the money, obviously. And I said, "Okay, but why this job? You could make money at a lot of ways. You could make money a lot of ways. Why fundraising?" She paused, then started to talk. She told me about her grandmother, how her grandmother had been sponsored as a child in a third world country, how that sponsorship had changed everything, paid for her education, gave her opportunities, eventually allowed her to immigrate and build a life, and how this woman sitting in front of me existed because of someone's decision to give. She had never thought of it that way before. But once she did, once she connected her daily work to something that mattered, everything changed. She wasn't knocking on doors to hit a quota. She was knocking on doors to give another grandmother's grandchild the same chance. That's a just cause. So let me ask you, why do you sell? Not for what company, not what product, why? What's the deeper reason? What's the thing that makes the hard days worth it? Because if you don't have an answer to that question, you're going to struggle. Not because you lack skill, but because skill alone doesn't sustain you. Purpose does. Here's what I want you to understand. A just cause doesn't have to be saving the world. It doesn't have to be curing disease or feeding the hungry. It can be simple. It can be personal. Maybe your just cause is helping people make better decisions. Maybe it's showing up for your family in a way your parents never could. Maybe it's proving to yourself that you can do something meaningful with your life. Whatever it is, you need it because the game is long and the only people who last are the ones who know why they're playing. I think about this a lot when I reflect on my own career. For years, I was chasing numbers, chasing leaderboards, chasing the feeling of being the best. And it worked until it didn't, until I hit a wall, until I realized that winning didn't actually make me happy. It just made me anxious for the next win. What pulled me out of that cycle was finding a different reason to do the work. I started thinking about the people I was talking to, not as prospects, not as conversations, as human beings with real lives, real struggles, real decisions to make. And I started to see my job differently, not as selling something, but as serving someone. That shift from transaction to transformation, that's what gave me staying power. That's what kept me in the game when others dropped out. And it's available to you if you're willing to look for it. And here's something important to understand. Your just cause doesn't have to stay the same forever. It can evolve. What motivated you at 20 might be different from what motivates you at 40. The key is to have something, to know why you're playing. Because when you don't, you're at the mercy of every up and down. Every rejection hits harder. Every slow week feels like failure. Every success feels empty because there's no context for it. But when you have a cause, when you know why you're doing the work, those ups and downs become part of the journey, not the definition of your worth. Let me share one more thought on this before we move on. Sinek makes an important distinction in the book. A just cause is not the same as a goal. Goals are finite. You hit them and they're done. A just cause is infinite. It's a direction you move towards, knowing you'll never fully arrive. It's like chasing the horizon. You'll never get there, but the chase itself gives your life meaning. In sales, your quota is a goal. Your cause is why you're chasing it. And the salespeople who confuse the two, who think the goal is the point, they're the ones who struggle most. Because once you hit the number, there's always another number. And if that's all you're playing for, the game never feels complete. But if the number is just a marker of progress towards something bigger, towards serving people, building a life, becoming who you're meant to be, then every step of the journey matters, not just the destination. Which brings us to the next lesson, because having a just cause is only part of the equation. You also need a team, not just any team, a team you can trust. And that starts with a very different question than most companies ask.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip from the Sales Evolution Lab podcast. If you found value in this lesson, be sure to hit subscribe to evolve for the future of selling. And if you want the full breakdown, the deeper stories, the practical toolkit, check out the full episode of the Sales Evolution Lab podcast. Just click the video on the screen, and I'll see you there.